How's everybody doing tonight? All right, what are we here for? We're here to make money, right? Everybody want to make money? Is that really the deal? That's right, John McLeod?
I'm ready to make money.
John, where do you see this in 5 years? 5 years from today, right now.
Mushrooms?
Mushrooms. Wait a minute. Are you serious about hold on? Are you serious about mushrooms?
Charlie, did you hear him? I think the people have spoken. I think we're serious about mushrooms.
I'd agree with that.
Okay, there you
Wait a minute. Hold on. I have mushrooms here as a throwaway question. Why do you think mushrooms are going to be the next big thing?
Well, I think just that people are ready for it. I think people are already microdosing very successfully as it is. It's decriminalized in a couple cities. I think there's possibilities you could even open a store in Detroit now with the technicality. So it's coming. It's coming, and I also think it's an industry that the people want and need.
Mike, are you going to do some House of Dank? Are you making dank mushrooms these days?
We have not entered the mushroom business at this stage.
Will you?
I think if the opportunity presents itself and it otherwise makes business sense, it would certainly be something we would take a look at.
What would it take? What's your criteria for business? We're talking about 5 years down the road now.
Look, if you get to a point where our state or other states have created a regulated marketplace that somewhat mirrors that which exists in the cannabis world, that only allows certain retailers that are already in this regulated marketplace to continue to sell this type of product, then I think at that point it makes sense. I mean, as we look in the 5 to 10 year window, I believe that particularly on the retail side, we are all going to need to diversify our product offerings as best we can. And I think that the easiest way to approach that would certainly be through the legalization and regulation of the mushroom market. So if you could combine those two together, you're starting to create more of an alternative medicine Walmart type situation, which would certainly help each and every retailer. So I think that what's critical there is who is going to be allowed to dispense that sort of thing or otherwise.
I see Mayor Fouts. He's looking at his notes. Did you take notes on mushrooms, Mayor Fouts? Are there some notes in there? Would Warren? You guys don't like pot. You never like mushrooms.
I like mushrooms.
Mayor, you need a mic. They can't say. I believe he said he liked mushrooms. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, I like mushrooms. I haven't tried the other kind, but who knows,
Yeah. All right. Let me. I want to move on. Beside the mushroom, there, Jessica or Carrie. I'm sorry, Carrie. We'll get to Jessica there. But Carrie, give me 5 years down the road in your area. Where do you see this industry going?
So I live in a little area outside of Ann Arbor, so it's very, very rural. And where I grew up is in Belleville, and there they just opened the first dispensary out of 2 that they're going to allow in the township. I think over the next 5 years, it's going to becoming more and more popular throughout and more accepted, and that's the biggest thing, especially as I have a lot of family that's up north, and so as we progress, they're a little bit behind up north sometimes, but that it's going to grow not only with the marijuana consumption, not only with the mushrooms, but even the ketamine.
Really, Jessica? All right, why'd you?
Special K just got dropped. All right.
I didn't even
I think that might be on the 10-year plan, everybody. But okay.
Wow, I know this is all new to me. Wow, this is a very progressive panel here. Jessica, weigh in on this. Help me out here.
I mean, I definitely think that retail trends are important, right? And being able to manage and watch what's happening in the market today and where pricing and profit management is huge and important to a lot of these people that asked questions earlier today, like, should I open a dispensary? And I don't know if you guys were here, but Raymond made the joke, like, run. And, and the funny thing is that if you don't manage profitability and you don't look at the market trends, you're not going to be here.
Well, so let me ask you this. Do you think the market, let's just stick to retail for a moment. Is it saturated now? Too many of them?
I mean, I definitely think it's saturated, but if you are a good retailer and you understand customer engagement, employee morale, and culture, and you understand the diversity of the industry, you can survive.
What's a good profit margin, Mike? What do you want to make?
As much as possible.
Oh, come on. Give me some numbers. What's good?
I think it goes all over the map. I mean, I think that in the early days of this industry, I think that most of us were trying to apply more of a keystone type rule. of trying to get, whatever you're buying it for, just double the price. That's clearly eroded as we have seen, downward pricing pressure on both the wholesale and the retail marketplaces. So I think that that's actually a really complicated question and goes to the heart of your individual enterprise. When you look at some enterprises, particularly in Michigan, say Common Citizen, Skyman, I think are two really good examples. These are two companies that were built to be vertically integrated so as to exploit profit margin. Now, if you compare that to, say, a pure retailer like a House of Dank, Jars, Cloud, you're going to be operating at slightly different margins, certainly. I think that most of us in the pure retail game in Michigan right now are probably living in that, 40 to 45% gross margin if you're really watching your pricing and managing your inventory properly.
That's pretty good.
It sounds a lot better than it is when you talk about 280E
280E.
taxation, the
Taxation,
regulatory
I know.
burdens.
280E, I know.
It
We're gonna
shrinks
get to that.
fast. Shrinks
But
fast.
you know what? There are some cities, let's just stick with the retail right now, and we'll focus on the city of, how about Warren? They don't have any, as I understand it, any retail for rec or medical. Mayor Fouts, why? I know you grow in Warren, I know that, but there are no retails.
I think the problem has been, if there's a problem, is the fact that the city council, the current council, has chosen not to include recreational, just medical, and the current attorney and law firm that they have chosen not to get involved in that. So for now, they're holding up on it. I'm not sure why, but they have just decided to go with medical. I'm sure somewhere down the line, when it's beneficial to them, they may decide to go with.
Would you be in favor of recreational in Warren?
I would be in favor of recreational as long as I think somebody talked about the saturation, maybe you did. It can't be saturated, it's got to be viable, but of course, maybe in business there's survival of the fittest, and I think Warren started out with a proposal for 15, and then it went to 18, and then it went to 20, and then it went down, and some of them went out of business. So I think they've got to be viable, they've got to be customer friendly, and they've got to have a service that people will like. Now, in terms of a mayor of the third largest city in the state, what I look at is I'm happy to note that many of the marijuana companies that have come to Warren have gone to our industrial areas, they've gone to blighted areas, and they've cleaned up the property, and they have a beautiful place there, and also they've generated money. The city, we have, I think, a pretty good ordinance, and we inspect every year, and they give us $5,000 for that. But we also insist that every aspect of the building be inspected, the plumbing and what have you, and electrical and zoning and what have you.
Yeah, so city is making some money in the cannabis world, mostly by the growers. There are a number of growers in Warren.
Well, I think I see Jim Cummings, our building director, he could correct me if I'm wrong. I think we're generating about $750,000 a year. Is that correct, Jim? And then with
Not bad.
building fees, we're getting a little bit more. Is that about it?
It's a little bit more than that.
Yeah.
Licenses, we pick up about $1.5 million to $1 million.
So he's talking about licenses. So the city of Warren gets about $1 million to $1.5 million in licenses. That's amazing.
Well, Charlie, no other city in the state has probably taken advantage of the cannabis industry in a positive way. I mean that as Warren has. There has been more investment in the city of Warren and in the cannabis industry, I think, than any other city. And it's the third largest city, as the mayor. I have my processing facility in Warren. It's a great facility. It's a great community to do business with, and they have really taken advantage of the wholesale side of cannabis.
Would you like to sell your product in Warren?
Absolutely. Warren would be a great
Well,
city
you
for us to
can do
operate
it.
in. That we can't do that yet. Well, the mayor said he's working on it, right? The man said he's working on it.
He's working on it. Let me ask you this. Let me go back to Jessica. Can you advertise? You're a marketing director, right? That's your goal. Is it difficult to market? Let's stick to retail again. Can you go on Fox 2 News? I don't know that you can you?
I mean, we can discuss the business. We can't obviously advertise the product. And advertising our door is the hardest thing. I think that we get really into the weeds when it comes to Instagram and being shadow banded and not being able to find your Instagram handle on there, even though we set restrictions on the back end of Instagram that says 21 or older to follow. Doesn't matter. Instagram is still shadow banning you.
If
Yeah.
you could, I don't mean to interrupt, but
Yeah.
if you could advertise, I mean, do you see that is something that would, again, you've got more, it would lower the prices, a lot of good things, benefits of advertising. I'd be like WWJ Radio or Fox 2. Do you ever see that happening in the near future?
I definitely think for sure it expands, especially as recreational grows in Michigan and we see more stores come on board. And you got to remember, we're back like where were cigarettes and alcohol were years and years and years ago. So eventually we'll get to a point where there is going to be some restrictions. Just like today, you can't advertise liquor on a billboard, but there's cannabis billboards all the way down 75 and up.
I
You know what I
know.
mean? So eventually we will get there at some point. When? I don't know. But in today's market, we focus a lot on CRM platforms, with text messaging, direct to media, then you're shadow banded by the carrier. So, I mean, there's a lot of avenues that we get stuck at, and then your responsibility to basically market your store, you're stuck to weed maps. And then weed maps kills us too from a pricing standpoint. I can think that this whole room can raise their hand and say that they probably put thousands and thousands of dollars into weed maps to market their store because they own the platform to be able to do
And
that.
just so I know, Mike, can House of Dank go on WWJ Radio? Or is there a law, you being the lawyer on the panel, is there a law prohibiting that?
I know of no legal restriction that would prevent someone from any of these licensed entities from appearing on a radio or television show to talk about the state of the industry or otherwise. I think Jessica hit the nail on the head where it gets a little fuzzy and gray when we start talking about specific products or otherwise. But I want to return to your point about TV or radio. I think that it begs a better question or a bigger question. Are those effective mediums to spend our money on advertising? As we look at the changing landscape of advertising, is TV and radio reaching the market that we want? I mean, when we really think about advertising, I tell you, I understand what we...
Look at the time. We have a lot more to talk about today. Listen, we got erectile dysfunction ads all over the place here. We can't do a pot ad? I don't understand this stuff. Where's your best market? House of Dank. Give me the best market if you could. Is it social media? Probably. Is it Instagram? I don't know. What would it be?
No question that it's. We have gone through a path of using digital and live events to try to grow our brand. So you see, Instagram, programmatic advertising that does not go into the duopoly of Google and Facebook, so we're able to deliver those ads to people that we already think are of the mindset to maybe start spending money on cannabis. We think that that's the best use of our limited marketing dollars to get the greatest return on investment. And then some of this is just good old-fashioned brand building, and I think that, when you look at House of Dank and some of the things that we have done, we've leaned in very heavily into live events that aren't necessarily cannabis events. I think one thing in this industry is that, you need to listen to the consumer and give them what they're asking for rather than telling them what they want. And that is something that we have really tried to hone in on. And by going to some of these non-cannabis events, I think that Arts, Beats, and Eats is a great example. I mean, this is the largest outdoor festival in the state of Michigan, and we are featured prominently there. We can't sell cannabis there. We don't do anything with our products there. That's a brand-building play. And it costs a lot of money, but when you are locked out of some of these more traditional advertising avenues, these are the types of things you have to do, together with some, guerrilla marketing and whatnot.
Carrie, let me bring you into the mix over here. Besides the branding of the product, you also have to have employers. You temployer, so you hire the people, right? That's kind of what you do.
So we are a HR, payroll, and PEO. So the basis of what we stand on is you could be a dispensary that has 12 employees and you go to Blue Cross Blue Shield or whoever for health insurance, want to get insurance, and it's $800 a paycheck for your bud tender. That's not realistic for anyone to get. So we lease those employees back out. Now we have this huge group and we can provide health insurance and 401k, benefits, HR, handbooks, guidance, all that stuff. And you get to run your business.
Do you go to the Cousin High School in Warren, for example, and tell the seniors, get into the cannabis world because you can make some money there?
I wish I could. So I've only been in this since August in cannabis. I've been in the payment processing side for over 10 years. Wish I would have gotten into it way sooner.
Why is that?
Because the ability to teach people and the way I believe sales are done and consulting is what I believe in is finding out what they need, giving them options.
You mean
and
what the, I'm sorry,
solutions.
what the employer needs?
What the employer needs to help them run their business by saving them time or money. And sometimes just being able to get that business owner to be able to get out of their office 20 minutes early so they can make it to their kid's Little League game. That's where the money.
But half your, I mean, I don't, maybe I'm wrong, but roughly, what's your percentage of payroll? It's got to be probably the highest.
One of the
I mean, that's in any business, right?
Yep.
John, you know that.
Yeah, no, it's a big percentage of our amount. Yeah, for sure. But it's
Yeah.
important though, especially, and I think more so than the payroll aspect, the culture aspect of your employees is probably the most important thing because that's where the real value comes
Is
from.
it difficult getting employees? We can't get people to work at a restaurant. Can't get people to work. Is it difficult to get people to work in your places?
Yeah, absolutely. We're not immune from all the work shortages across the board at all. I think what is the challenge for us is to retain the talent that we have. There's a lot of turnover, particularly in the retail for cannabis right now.
Why is that difficult, do you think?
I just think it's culture building. I just think we're still, we're building the plane as we're flying it, so to speak, Charlie. So I think it's just building the right culture amongst our employees and making sure that, we're customer obsessed in the front of the house and employee obsessed in the back of the house.
Jessica, do you have any insight into this? How do you get these employees and keep them?
So we have one of the busiest stores in Michigan, and I will shout us out at Urban Monroe. And we have, right now in this one location, we have about 110 employees just in this one store.
Where's the store at?
It's off of exit 11. The guys are looking at me. Off of exit 11 on 75. We are.
It's a banger, Charlie. It's a banger. Banger.
Shout out to the guys in the back of the room.
Wow, 110. What are you guys
yeah,
selling
so-
over there?
Weed.
No, weed. Shocking. All right.
We sell weed.
Wow, isn't that
We have a
shocking?
billboard on 75 that says we sell weed, by the way.
What city is that in again?
It's in Monroe.
Monroe,
So we
okay.
get obviously a lot of our traffic comes from out of state.
No.
So we're dealing, no,
Shocker.
shocker. So obviously seeing that, we actually staff a lot of people that come from, there's a college in Ohio that actually offers a cannabis class. And we actually are on the list as one of the employers to actually staff from that college. So a lot of times they'll staff, and then I'll get an email that says, "Can you verify this employee's, employment or this person's employment?" Because they've taken the class with them. They've studied cannabinoids, they've studied cannabis, they've studied microdosing, they've studied all the different aspects of cannabis that provides the knowledge that they can provide on to the customer. I think one of the biggest things for us is if the volume that we have coming out of our store, it goes back into having the right people and the right culture in your store, because that feeds back into the customer experience.
So you have not had the problem in retaining employees?
I would definitely say turnover is high because we're new, and it's a very stressful environment being how the volume that we have. We don't have turnover because of the management. We don't have turnover because of the culture. I think it's important in this industry to understand cannabis and where cannabis comes from, that you need to allow these employees to have an identity and be who they are. These are not Meijer employees. These are not Best Buy employees. You can't put these people in jeans and a polo and tell them, come sell weed. These people want to come to work in leggings and a hoodie or pajama pants and a crop top.
And
you know
you're
what?
okay with that?
And I'm okay with it. Because you know what, at the end of the day, they mirror the clientele that's walking in the store today. If my employee that walks out can make a relation with a customer and be able to sell them hundreds of dollars in product with the knowledge that they have based on the training we provide, I mean, it's a win-win for all
Jessica,
of us.
what's the average age of your customer?
21, average age of our customer?
Customer, not the employee,
I would say
customer.
roughly, so based looking at some of the statistics and the data that we have in our database, our average customer, I would say between 30 and 45-ish. We do have some younger people. The younger people that come for brands such as like House of Dank carries like the Pressure Pack and the Gans Cannabis brand and things like that are the fanboy packaging is what I like to call it. Being that we are on the border and we get a lot of out-of-state people that come in, you're going to see a ton of those people come in because they come in for the Instagram to come and say, I grabbed this product.
Let me get House of Dank. What's your average age customer-wise?
It would mirror what she's talking about. I think that overall, the average age of a customer at a dispensary is actually a little higher than I think most people suspect that it is. And I think that some of that goes to overall buying habits of different generations, particularly when we talk about in-store sales. I mean, overwhelmingly, the men and women that visit stores are over the age of 30. And I think that goes with retail trends, no matter what it is you're selling. Younger and younger people are much more apt to either do curbside or delivery, or still have ready access to the black market more so than someone in their 30s. So I certainly see that. But I think that is going to change a little bit as we get further and further out. You know, tomorrow's customer in 10 or 15 years who is still a child today is not going to have exposure to the black market that the men and women that are 25 are now. I mean, if you're 25 and you're a weed smoker, when you were 19, you had somebody. All right, like you knew where to get it. Whereas today's adolescent is not going to have those kind of options, in my opinion.
Mayor Fouts?
Well, I would just add that I note there is a trend with seniors, and seniors are interested in obviously pain management, they're interested in sleep, and they're interested in a lot of things dealing with that. Now, maybe that doesn't go with recreational, but I hear more and more seniors indicating to me that they do want to get into marijuana for different reasons. And so I think the growing trend might be with seniors. Now, whether they're going to get into recreational along with that, I don't know.
I agree with the
I
mayor.
agree with him.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, I
Fastest growing demographic is men and women over the age of 50 that are not traditional users. Now, they're not power buyers. I'm not going to lie to you. You know, that's not the sort of person that's coming back every 3 days and buying an ounce of weed, and I really like that person. But, I mean, that is certainly where we're seeing some growth and some expansion, and I think that's where you get into, when grandma's having gummies at Christmas, you're selling more weed to her grandkids, okay? We've normalized this process a little bit by virtue of gummies and men and women over the age of 50 starting to experiment and being more cannabis curious.
For anybody, is medical done? I mean, what percentage of your business is medical only? Is it?
So in Monroe, we actually don't have medical, but we offer a discount for those that still hold a med card to honor the fact that they are a veteran, somebody who was in the military, somebody who's a senior. We offer a wisdom discount, right? That senior discount.
But
it's a small percentage.
Very small.
Very
Recreational
small
is where it's at.
percentage.
Mayor?
I'm just curious, I would ask all of you, is the only sustaining business you can really have for productive product is with recreational, not medical?
Yes.
No
That's the
question.
basic line.
No question.
Is it 90?
rec
I mean,
market.
90% rec. Cloud, what are you guys doing?
Yeah, our medical sales account for about 8%, but we're in 2 cities that are med only, so that bumps up that percentage a little bit.
But that's it. Would you go zero if you could?
I mean, listen, we're founded off medical patients. I'm a medical patient myself, so we're always going to look out for them, but we can do so with adult use product.
House of Dank, same percentage?
No question about it. When we look at our split stores, I think that it's even more drastic. I mean, when I look at, say, our Centerline store, you're probably looking at 25-1 rec to med. I mean, the overall market numbers show that it's about 8% across the state. But to John's point, that is hyper concentrated in Detroit and Traverse City, 2 fairly large marketplaces that have not opened their doors to medical. Detroit, we hope soon. Traverse City is certainly going to be in the fall. But once those dominoes fall, I mean, you may be seeing 0.5%,
Yeah.
2% of the total marketplace will be medical.
We don't have a big grower, but of the grower side, though, is it the same product, or is it marketed specifically for medical or specifically for recreational?
So we are on the grow side. So we are vertical. We do have a grow as well. And I would definitely say that we started our grows on the medical side. And we've seen over the last 12 months such a huge decline in sales on the medical side that it didn't make sense to even grow medical anymore. We do have a store in Southwest Detroit that was one of the original locations that we had. It wasn't an herb store, but unfortunately, we still grow some medical to supply inventory for that particular location and some of the House of Dank stores.
So if a city adopts some kind of an ordinance where it's medical only, does that excite you or no?
No.
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 No. No.
Well, Charlie, I would
Mayor!
I would just add
I'm
that
trying to help your city.
originally the council gave 15 licenses that would have gone for medical and ultimately recreational.
A little bit louder,
and they
Mayor.
changed their mind. So has that put a damper on your interest in Warren, or how do you feel about that currently?
If it was medical only, I wouldn't even come in.
Same. And I'll bail out the mayor a little bit on this as well. I think Warren is an excellent example of the industry eating itself alive with litigation. And we have seen this certainly in other states, but Warren, I think, is textbook of what can happen when you limit the licenses and a turf war breaks out amongst those people that are fighting for those licenses. I mean, Warren accepted applications for their medical stores, I believe it was February of 2019. And we are now almost 4 years later, and we are still in the Court of Appeals.
Well,
we are
but-
still
but-
trying to solve political problems, and that doesn't sit solely on the feet of the mayor and council. Some of that sits at the feet of the men and women that are in this room and making decisions. I
but you're
know that there were numerous opportunities to resolve that litigation, and people are just going to get their shit together. I mean, to be quite honest with you. And so I will bail the mayor out a little bit. I do believe that Warren was one of the most progressive cities. Some $250 million has been invested in Warren over the last 4 or 5 years and grows. Like, they want this here. When you talk to their council members, when you talk to the mayor, the problem doesn't sit with government. The problem sits with us staring at each other in the mirror, really, if you want my honest opinion.
But you're not advocating unlimited dispensary licenses.
I'm
medical-
absolutely advocating unlimited
You want-
dispensary licenses.
no,
I
you
think
don't.
that the
Really?
number one
Wait a
thing
minute.
that gets a city sued is by creating this false scarcity, and you get into a taxi medallion situation where having a license to sell weed might actually be worth more than actually selling weed, and that's not how it
But
should
they
be.
limit liquor licenses, they limit all kinds of licenses.
But not in
You
this
don't want
type
to
of.
saturate the market.
Let's talk about that.
Okay, let's do that.
You know, we talk about saturation of the market, but let's talk about who the biggest winner in cannabis is, and that's the Michigan cannabis consumer. All right, you want to talk about a saturation of market? We have some of the best marijuana products in the world here, okay? The regulatory scheme in Michigan is allowed for a tremendous amount of competition from a lot of growers that have decades of experience. We've been legal for almost 15 years here, okay? Other states can't replicate the quality and the innovative products that we have, and we have a state regulatory scheme that basically allows, if you can conceive it and you can test it, you can sell it. You can't do that in a lot of other states. So when we talk about saturation, we're not talking about what that delivers to the consumer. There is no state, there's no place in the world where you can get better weed at better prices and a better variety of innovative products than Michigan. And that is a testament to our industry and the leadership we've had at the state and the local levels.
I mean, he's very right. I mean, especially if you look at the clientele base. HOD has a store in Monroe as well. And if you see the customers coming in, they're coming from Kentucky, Pennsylvania, Cincinnati, Florida, New Jersey, New York, Minnesota. I mean, they're coming from all over because we do produce quality and great products.
You guys do not want Congress to even take a puff of marijuana, do you? Never legalize it, right? Who on this panel wants Congress to say it's legal?
It's complicated.
Oh, it's not complicated.
Charlie, I want to raise a
when
question.
you can-
If Congress were to legalize it, would it not be good in terms of the liability you have with protecting yourselves because you're a cash business and therefore you have to spend a lot of time on security? So if it was legalized, you could go to banks and you could do it that way, right?
We are in the banking system. Every single dollar gets deposited.
Yeah, we're not in federal banks, but we're
Well,
in
you're
local.
not in the, wouldn't the FDIC be better?
Yeah, but you know, what are they going to offer us that these state banks or these credit unions can't offer us? I mean, these local banks have stepped up to accept our money, and they've been very good partners for us. So what do we need? You know, we're
You
good
don't
there.
want the feds involved because McDonald's corporate, not McDonald's, but it's going to be a tobacco company will probably buy, John, they'll probably buy you out. You'll make a lot of money.
Listen, I think to Mike's point originally, we're special here in Michigan. I mean, we've had a longstanding medical market, but there's some really great cultivators in the state, and there's some amazing products.
You don't want it. You want the people from Kentucky and Ohio to come to your place.
Absolutely, we do.
Absolutely.
We want
But
them
if
to
it's
keep coming.
federal, you may risk that, right?
Well, there's a chance, but I would bet on our products. I think the people would still come, but obviously, you know, we're a single state that's operating and taking care of a lot of different communities.
Will we ever see any cannabis product in Costco, Walmart, a big store? Jessica?
I think so.
Absolutely. Not
Really?
a doubt in my mind.
How's
I
the
think you
dank
got to
product?
start looking even further out, okay? We talk about 5 years. We talk about 10 years. Let's talk about 15 to 20 years. I think that it is inevitable that, and this is why I talked about diversifying into other controlled substances as they slowly become legal at these retail stores, but I think that it is inevitable that this industry is going to be served by gas stations, party stores, and the like down the line. And I think that, again, you've got to put on your 15 to 20-year hat and think a little bit more generationally when we talk about this, but I think that there is too much money and there's going to be too much lobbying efforts that I do believe that there is a time frame here for the standalone retail cannabis world.
We had 5 city council people just about fall over in the back row there because they can't even buy beer in the gas stations these days.
But in Canada, it's already available in gas stations.
Florida just allowed for Circle
gas
K's
stations.
to start selling as well. So, like, it's already here. There's the green shoots of progressiveness in this industry exist, both here in America, Europe, Canada, and that's all going to coalesce around
Would
some
that change,
sort of plan.
take a change of state law in order to sell cannabis in a retail store or a gas station, or no?
It would take a change in state law, absolutely. And it may require a change in federal law because, again, all of us operating within this industry are still operating with some degree of risk because of the federal illegality. So it might be a little bit more difficult for, say, Speedway 7-Eleven to hop into the state cannabis game without federal legalization, which is why I think you're looking at a 15 to 20-year time horizon.
Carrie, I don't want to X you out. You're shaking your head. You want to get in on this conversation there. Where do you think we're going here?
No, I absolutely agree with the 15, 20-year plan. I think 5 years or less, the thing that we're going to see even faster is candy vending machines at hotels, at movie theaters. That's going to be the next closest thing coming along.
Can I go to a bank right now and borrow whatever I want to borrow in the cannabis, John? Can I do that? Will banks give me money?
There's not a lot of lending happening in the cannabis industry right now. They'll hold on to our money.
Is that a problem?
Yeah, sure, it's a problem. It's a problem for people that aren't well capitalized. It's a problem for startups. It's a problem for mom and pops. Sure, it's a challenge. It's definitely a gating item getting into the cannabis industry. The funding.
How do you collateralize?
It's,
How do you collateralize your loan? Can you do it on your inventory? No.
no, so
No.
they would do it on the property.
Well, that's cheating, isn't it? I mean, that's property. That's
I mean, if I bought a building at cannabis market value, right? Don't look at it at the regular value because a green zone property value is much higher. So if you see something that's in an industrial zone that's green zone that was a mechanic shop at one point and it wasn't green zoned, it probably cost $250,000 to $300,000. And today I go to buy it as a cannabis broker now in a green zone, I'm buying it for $800,000 to $900,000. So if I bought that business and I was able to lend on that business to open my grow or to open my retail, there's a big difference there because now I'm using that as capital and sustainability and being able to open my business without having to use my actual cash.
What are these cities thinking of? Green the whole place. I mean, you're going to get that's a tax benefit then, right? When you sell the building.
Yeah, I definitely think it still should be somewhat regulated.
Well,
Even
I mean,
being in the business,
everywhere,
you know
but
what
I mean within reason. You can still zone the
Yes,
place.
it's zoned,
Yes,
yeah,
of
it's
course.
zoned.
Well, and because of the zoning, the value is actually in the dirt more than the business
Exactly.
itself. And you can't just pick up and move. Like a Starbucks could move to another suite down the block and have no problem, right? We don't have the opportunity to do that. So the value is actually in the land itself.
Why do you think banks are not getting into the cannabis spending? I mean, it seems to me that they could do that.
Well, the federal banks aren't doing it because
It's
it's federally
illegal.
illegal.
But
So
local banks.
local credit unions and state banks have been all over us.
And they're lending.
And there's actually banks in the state that have been started by cannabis people.
So if someone wants to, I don't know if we have anybody, if you want to start up a dispensary or a grow, and I need money to buy whatever, is it easy to get a bank to lend?
No.
Why is that, Jessica?
I think the bigger part of it, I mean, I've been dealing with this right now as we grow and our expansion happens. So they won't lend you. There's a lot of, your 1099s and K1s and backing and cash flow and how long you've been in the industry and what your financials look like and CPA attestations and all of the stuff that goes into this. No bank is just going to give somebody who decides to open a grow money to go open a grow. I think it all starts from your capital. It all starts from where you started and how you got here. And if you have that, the financials to support it, then yeah, they'll give you money.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
John?
PE money in the space too, and I mean this is a new industry, so there's just a lot of people that are taking a ride on it with us.
Yeah. What do you guys want to talk about? What do you guys want to talk about? This is a great panel. What do you guys want to talk about? Raise your hand. Do we have a mic? Do we have a thing? I don't want to ask all the questions. Tessa says this thing work. Who's got a question? Who's got a question? Yes, down there. Hold on. Stand up. Well, here, let's do this. I don't trust him with that microphone. Go, what's your question?
I'm not a singer.
What's your question?
It's more of a comment. You've had a ton of topics up here, but going back to the advertising and the challenge around advertising, in this industry, probably the best advertising channel is programmatic, and it's fully attributable. And we can dial right into Dutchie, who happened to be on the last path. So we know what reservation orders look like. We know what cart orders look like. We can tell you that an online order is actually higher than a walk-in order. We can tell you repeat business, and we can tell you SSIDs off the mobile devices.
But if I do something on Fox 2, it's going to reach lots of people.
Okay, so great, but programmatic shows up on fox2.com. Programmatic shows up on mlive.com, wwj.com, foxnews.com. So it's a huge place, and it's untapped. And the reason it's untapped is because I can't see my billboard of my store, come and get an $8 eighth, or I can't see my commercial. At the end of the day, though, it's fully attributable, and it works. So to you guys and anybody else in the room that's in the retail business, get into programmatic.
There you go.
Yeah, solid advice for sure. I would completely agree.
Salsa Dank using it?
Of course.
Of course. Who else got a question? Anybody have a question? Yes, right here. Hold on. Let me, right here. All right, stand up. Here we go.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody on the panel. Very, very informative, very entertaining. I'm hearing some things like what's going to happen with dispensaries 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now. Things like, okay, medical is kind of dead, but there's a space here for not necessarily medical, but more lifestyle. And something in an earlier panel about, what people can use marijuana for. We're, some years into this legalization of something that had a particular cultural association when it was illegal. And now kind of the sky is the limit as far as what people use marijuana for now. Some generational issues too. What do the panelists think eventually marijuana is going to be for? How does it compare to other products that people can buy?
Getting high, right?
Is it just that? Or is it for other things? Where do you see it going as far as what people actually use it for? Again, 5, 10, 15 years from now. Thank you.
Yeah, good. All right, good question. All right, Mayor no. What do you think? Mushrooms. That's where we're going with this thing. John, take a stab at that one. Anybody?
Yeah, I think you can't pigeonhole cannabis or cannabis consumers. I think there's a space for us all with cannabis. So I think, and a lot of the medical patients have been kind of put in one space. So many people come in as adult use customers, and they're using gummies or they want to smoke something to help them sleep. If you went to a traditional doctor and said, I don't sleep, they'd give you a pill and they call you a patient. So that person is coming in. I think it's a whole range of what people use it for. But I think the mayor pointed out earlier a lot of pain management, especially in the older generation.
If I can jump in on that as well, I think that you've got to start talking about the bifurcation of this cannabis industry as well. I mean, remember, none of the big pharmaceutical companies have been able to really run any studies or do any tests on the cannabinoids and the stuff. We haven't really seen a generation of true medicines that are derived from cannabis. That's what's next, I think, in the medical world, as we get more and more dialed in with the specific science and we create more designer, true pharmaceuticals. But I think that differs greatly from what I think the core consumer is today and will likely continue to be in the short term for the men and women in our industry, and that is your casual recreational user that is, ingesting either edibles or vapes or good old-fashioned flower.
We didn't really distribute, real quick though, your average age is what, like 25 to 40-ish, give or take?
I would say that's the core demographic, sure.
Pretty much, that's my demographic too, actually, coincidental. But do you see that in 10 years from now, will that go up? Will you go into the 35 to 50, 60-year-old?
I certainly hope so. I think that, the customer that exists today that has made cannabis a part of their mental health regimen or their recreational regimen, like many people do with alcohol, I think that if those are habits that you pick up in your 20s, you are more likely to be enjoying a nice scotch when you're 65. So I do believe that as it's normalized and we indoctrinate these consumers and they visit us more and more, that will carry on throughout their life.
Question.
Cool. So I want to kind of piggyback off that, and I think a very underutilized license in the market right now is the event license. I think for a number of reasons is like cannabis events seem to be very cannabis specific, and I think maybe it could be more just event specific with cannabis being a part of it. You see that sometimes in California, like a festival like Outside Lands, who is booking, national acts but they have the cannabis aspect added. Do you think that's something that we could push for or get into action to have at places like Movement or Electric Forest, or places that are really bring in huge crowds that are already using this substance, but we can really like make it safe, make it, all those things?
I definitely think so, for sure. I know our brand has hosted Bud Tenders Ball. I don't know if anybody here attended, but we basically threw a big, huge event that honored the Bud Tenders for all their hard work after 420. We've also done an event with the Halloween event. It was at the Garden Theater. It was, we didn't obviously sell cannabis there, but it was more or less like consumption was allowed. Yeah, it was actually a lot of fun. So we've also done a golf outing too that was more of on an investor level that provided cannabis. So I think that the next step is something like you said, being able to have it at Movement, being able to do these things. And the event licenses are opening up. There wasn't a lot offered before. There's a lot more licenses available today. I know that Gibraltar is doing something really big when it comes to like for the event side, and they're looking at expansion and trying to bring huge events to the market. But yeah, from an event side, I definitely think that we could definitely see growth in that aspect. And I'll let the lawyer answer the next question.
Go ahead, Mike. Retail?
Like retail at events, like not just events.
It's coming. I can tell you that as someone who's leaned into those events, those conversations are happening today with large-scale event organizers and the municipalities within them. You can go back to last spring. We at House of Dank went before the Royal Oak City Commission to incorporate a consumption area and a sales area at Arts Beats and Eats this past Labor Day, and we lost by 1 vote at City Council. So, we're out here changing hearts and minds, and I know that from HOD's perspective, the way that we're trying to do that is by showing up on time, every time, prepared, and putting our best foot forward, not just for us, but the whole industry. We have spent tremendous amount of money at these festivals and not sold any cannabis or had a consumption lounge, but it's part of this long-term relationship building plan to demonstrate that we're the type of partners that you want to have, and that having been there a few years, not having any incidents, that if you're ever going to take this leap and try to trust, it should be with a partner that you've already worked with. So that's kind of the angle that we're taking, but I would say that within 12 months, I think that you are absolutely going to see cannabis introduced at a very major non-cannabis event here in the state of Michigan.
Which one?
I certainly hope it's Arts Beats and Eats and we're first. I'm not going to lie.
Oh, really? Really?
I'll bet on House of Dank and I'll bet on Mike to get that done. We did a cannabis event it was called Cannabis, and it was Muskegon the weekend before Movement, and we sold there, and it was a great event, but obviously it was very cannabis focused. We had almost 8,000 people show up to a ticketed event, so it was a great event, and there were no issues, no fights, no arguments. No one left angry. That's for sure.
No fights, I can see. But what about the crime, though? These city council people. I see a couple in the back room over there that denied a license not too long ago. What city was that again? Hazel Park, maybe. Okay. But anyway, will we ever see, though, not these single events? I understand the Arts Beats and Eats, but what about a consumption forever and ever? Well, it's like a bar where you can go in there like they have in Amsterdam. Will we ever see that? Is that coming at all? Monroe would be a great place for it, I think.
Absolutely. I'm giving that question to the lawyer.
Yeah. Mike, go ahead.
Designated consumption lounges are obviously allowed per the state of Michigan. I think that we're still trying to figure out what the business model is.
You see a movie. How about a movie? Does that work? I don't know. I'm just, throwing
potentially,
ideas
but
out.
I think you have to, again, you have to look at what you have to do to prepare your facility to allow people to smoke weed inside of it. We are now in a tobacco-less society. You can't smoke cigarettes in bars. So imagine then now you've got, the secondhand smoke effect, that it's not just affecting potentially your health, but also your state of mind. So from a regulatory standpoint, you have to have certain fans, you have to have areas for your employees to be in a smokeless atmosphere. So it's not as simple as just conversion. And then let's not forget the hardest part of a consumption lounge is you can't sell weed.
Is that a state law?
Yeah.
So we have to
cannot
bring your...
sell weed at a consumption lounge. You can have it delivered to you. But at a licensed consumption lounge, it does not mix with a retailer's license. So I think that those that are operating today are operating primarily as event spaces so that people can come in and host cannabis events. But we're still trying to unlock that.
Is there an insurance issue too? Will an insurance company insure a pot event?
I think that money solves anything with insurance companies. So you can get an insurance policy on literally anything if you've got enough money.
There you go. Where do we go? What do you want to talk about, Mayor? What's going on in Warren? What do you think we should know about for these people that want to start up some business? Microphone, Mayor.
I'm sorry. I think one of the biggest concerns of my citizens would be marijuana in the neighborhood. And that seems to be a problem. I get a lot of complaints about smell. I get a lot of complaints about things going on in the neighborhood they don't agree with. So I think what gets confused sometimes, people are upset about the marijuana industry because of medical marijuana, or allegedly medical marijuana in the residential neighborhood, because I think the state law allows them to grow 12 plants, and allegedly they just use it as caregivers. I think it's a de facto commercial operation. It creates a lot of problems in the neighborhood, and that's my concern. Now, what can you suggest or do as an industry to help us eliminate the grow factor in the neighborhood, because that's a problem for a lot of people?
I would definitely say that you will probably see a decrease in that as the product in the medical market and in the recreational market aligns with the street price. So the price on the streets is mirroring almost what the medical and the recreational prices are. So the prices on the retail level used to be so expensive that the black market still thrived. So today the black market and the retail market align so close to each other that a lot of these people in the homes that we're growing in black marketing this product don't find a value in it anymore and are reverting to the retail side to be able to purchase and reproduce and sell out of the retail.
What's changed to lower your prices?
Saturation.
Well,
It's the truth.
So why can't you just beat the black market now?
We do. You can buy product on the medical and the recreational market cheaper than you can buy it on the streets. You can buy it in retail cheaper than you can buy it in the streets. And it's better. And it's tested.
Yeah, but you got to. Yeah, why just arrest them all? I mean, is enforcement an issue, Mayor?
It's a law. They're allowed to grow the 12 plants.
Oh, they can grow. That's right. They can grow. That's
Well,
right.
It's legal.
It's legal. I know. You'd like to see that law change, probably, wouldn't you?
No, I wouldn't. I'm a staunch believer in home grow. I think that that's all of this
It all
comes from the
started from
guys
that.
in the garages growing weed.
Yes.
Okay, so to close the doors on those people is bullshit. And I think that's one of the reasons that I'm so excited to be in the cannabis industry in Michigan as opposed to Ohio and Pennsylvania and some of these limited license states. Got to tell you what, the real ones in Michigan would not get a license in some of these limited license states, okay? They're gonna go to a bunch of corporate boards with a bunch of money. But Michigan, you still have, authenticity in this industry, and that is very rare.
That's good. All right, we only have a couple minutes left. I just want to, we haven't really talked about edibles at all. What percentage are you seeing, we're going to see more edibles? Is that becoming a bigger player in the market as opposed to traditional flower or weed and that type of thing? Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I definitely would. We see a huge increase in cartridges being used and a huge increase in edible products being used. A lot of people that use the edibles and use the cartridges go for the more discreet consumable. A lot of people don't like to smell like weed. You know what I mean? A lot of people who use edible enjoy it for body pain, body relief, joint pain, long day of work. Sometimes it's just the way it makes them feel. But it's more of a discreet consumable. Vapes is the same thing on the vape cartridge side. It's more of a discreet consumable. You're finding a lot of the market come up with a lot of disposable lines. Being able to use your cart and you're done with it, you toss it out like a Breeze pen or anything else that you would buy in a gas station. So you're seeing more of a discreet consumable coming to market because of the stigma behind cannabis.
You know what? This has been a lot of fun. I learned a lot. Our time is up. Panel, thank you. Good stuff. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.